when a mummy kukri and a daddy kukri love each other very much, they produce a baby kukri. Not really. This is a review of the Cold Steel Rajah III. G'day folks, Aussie Mark here again. This is going to be probably a bit of an odd review. I've been almost dreading making this video because I got mixed feelings about this little knife. So yeah, we'll just clear the field of play here. This is just an old kukri I bought a lifetime ago, chrome plated souvenir piece of crap, which I guess was supposed to be hung on the wall somewhere as a decoration. So naturally I basically beat the living hell out of it for quite a long time, showing the signs of that. And of course one of my absolute favourites, my K-bar kukri machete. Before we get rid of that one, we'll just have a look, I suppose, with the blade shapes there, and certainly is a family resemblance. So anyway, we'll pull that one out of the way and we'll get down to business with this one. Okay, so this is the Cold Steel Rajah III. This is the first cold steel knife I ever bought. In fact, at the moment it's the only one I have. It just struck me as an interesting knife. It's certainly not my normal style of knife shape or folding knife, and that's actually part of the reason I bought it. I thought, well, I just wanted to check out something a bit different. We'll do a few of the details of this knife. Most people might be familiar with it. There are now two versions of this particular knife, the Rajah III, available, plain blade, or there's a full serrated version. Or when I say full serrated, it's serrated from the back part of the blade here, probably up until about this section here. So this portion here is all serrations, and then you've got a very short run of plain blade at the front. I haven't handled one or seen one. I don't know what the serrations are like, and I won't, because basically I'm not a serration sort of fan. I prefer plain edge. It runs the locking mechanism is at what the Cold Steel call a triad lock. Now it looks like a fairly standard lock back. I'm not going to go into the details, but down in the front of the knife there you might see an additional little locking pin, and that's one of the key components of the triad locking mechanism. For full details of how this works, get yourself along to the Cold Steel site and you'll find a link there, certainly off the Rajah III page I think there is, and it has some graphics on how the triad lock works. Very strong lock from all reports. Certainly Cold Steel claim it to be a very strong lock, and nothing I've seen thus far off the knife or anything I've read would indicate otherwise. It seems to be an extremely strong and reliable locking mechanism. The blade steel on this is OS 8, OS 8A actually, and the knife is, as you can see there, if we can get some focus, it is made in Taiwan. You can see the Cold Steel logo on that side. If we just flip it over on the other side, quite nice actually, the Rajah III logo there on that side of the blade, which actually is quite fancy. It's a full flake ground blade, as you can probably see there, and blade shape, well, as we've already established, it's a kukri shape. You know, you could probably come up with all sorts of weird terms, recurve or whatever, but basically it's a kukri shape, very small. Well, when I say small, small by kukri standards. The blade on this is 3.5 inches, 90 millimeters long. Whilst we're talking measurements, the overall length of the knife, when it's opened as it is there, is 8¼ inches or 210 millimeters. The closed length, 4 3/4 inches or 121 millimeters. Sitting there like that. Handle material on this is Grivory, and it's got kind of a, to be honest, quite a cheap sort of feel to it, which I guess is not to be surprised at. It is basically a plastic, and given the price point. Having said that, it is actually a very comfortable handle to use. Now, Cold Steel on their website also talk about this being a free position handle, and I thought that was just a bit of a marketing gimmick, but it's actually fairly true. You can hold it like so, and get your two fingers, I'll just zoom out a bit, on this part of the blade, 3 fingers in here, 1 up here, and you can choke up on that blade. And it works quite well. That gives you really nice detail to get on this bit of recurve here to use that part of the knife. You can hold it standard where your pinky finger goes in here, these 2 fingers here, and your front fingers go in there, and that's a middle grip as they call it, or standard grip, the one you'll use most often. If you want to use this as a chopper, and I know that sounds kind of crazy on a small knife, but it actually works quite well. You just bring your fingers back one from that, and you hold it like so. Now this little section at the back does lock you in quite nicely, and it gives you that little bit more swing on the blade. Now I've actually used it on this with a bit of impromptu gardening around the house, just wandering around, and when I was EDCing this thing, and on small branches and bits and pieces, it's actually surprisingly effective as a chopping tool, despite its size. The weight of it is 5 ounces, which is 143 grams. Now, the deployment on this it's getting better. It was quite tight when I got it, and if anyone has watched my other video where I talk about bringing this into the country, that was probably a good thing, because I dare say it wouldn't have made it through customs. It always released quite easily and nicely, as you see there, and shuts nicely. It is firm. It certainly doesn't open as easily as some of my others. Now it's got to the point it will flick open. It wouldn't do that initially, so whether that's just the mechanism bedding in, they do say these triad locks bed in over time. The other thing you can do with this one is, if you've got a nice tight grip on the handle, you can just flick it like that, which is quite surprising me actually. That's not really the way I tend to use it, but you can do that. I tend to more or less just open it quite normal like that. You can hear a solid lock up. There's absolutely no movement in that lock whatsoever. I haven't done any sort of hardcore stress testing on it. I have seen videos where people have, and therefore they've beaten the hell out of their knife. I don't need to beat the hell out of mine. I have no doubt that'll be a strong mechanism. The other way you can deploy this, if you have a look at that, what's the term they call thumb ramp on it. I'll show you that way. It's double-sided, so you can use thumb ambidextrous left or right, but also you've got this little notch just in here, and that's basically like a wave feature. When that comes out of your trousers, if you bring that up against the trouser, it'll catch there and open the knife up. It works. I'm not into that, and in actual fact I find that a bit of a problem, because occasionally when I've pulled the knife out of my pocket, it's accidentally opened or gone partially opened without my being aware of it, or wanting it to happen. So just be aware of that with knives with that design. If you're not looking for that, you need to just probably slide it forward in your pocket a bit before drawing it out, so you don't open it when you don't want it to. Ambidextrous carry, yes, it does that. Me being the left-handed that I am, of course I've put this clip on the left. Now you notice the clip is bent, or it's got a curvature to it, which means it wouldn't be able to work on the other side. This was the clip that came in a plastic bag in the box. Well, it would have been in the box, except Australian Customs dropped it into the main package. But you can see there, that's the original clip, which is designed, of course, to mount on that right side and go off the curve of the blade. And surprising to me, they actually supplied with the spare clip 3 additional small screws already, as you can probably see there with the blue Loctite on it. So spare screws is not a bad thing. I don't mind that. I'll just put this back in here and keep it in the original box to keep track of it. So that's all really good. The reason I said at the start that I've mixed feelings about this knife is, normally I can kind of nail down a purpose of use for the knife, and that sort of gives me a guide on, do I like it, do I not. I can't really decide what this knife's for. I like it because it's interesting, it's different, and to me it's something a little bit almost like a collectible, even though it's only a cheap knife. I just like it for having something different. I don't particularly like it as a carry knife, and one of the reasons for that is it's quite wide and thick, and if you compare it to, I've got a Dura 4 over here somewhere which you can compare it to. If you look at the thickness there, you can see it's quite a bulky knife as far as the handle thickness goes. And you certainly, or I certainly know when I've got this in my pocket, I don't find that it rides comfortably. I know it's there. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The good part about that thicker handle is that it does feel very, very good in the hand. So, I don't know, maybe it's just me and the use I put my knives to that I can't find a definitive use for this knife. Overall, I think the quality of the knife's very good, and I think the value is very good on it. These are not an expensive knife by any means. Again, as I say, really interesting knife to have in my collection, which is the main reason I've got it. It's just something completely different to any other folder I've got. The blade shape I have found takes some getting used to when you're used to normally straight edge or drop points or whatever, to utilise this blade in this size, because it's not, I'm used to using Kukri machete type things. That's taken some adapting, and those 3 grips that you can use certainly help you with that. You can use the blade. I don't know what to say about this thing. Purpose of use, I guess, is what's going to nail down whether you want this knife or not. And it's one of those knives I think everyone's going to have a slightly different use for it. It's a very heavy duty folder. It's not dead. If the shape intrigues you, you just want to try something different, go out and try one out. And you might find that you like it and it suits what you want it to do. But it's certainly not your everyday folding knife. It's just that something a little bit different. And Yeah, so I'm going to finish on a note of absolute indecision. Still trying to make up my mind what I really think about it. But I know I do like it. I like having it. I just don't know that I'll carry it a lot. Anyway, thanks for watching or listening to me ramble through a totally inconclusive review, I guess. Take care. See you all later.